Welcome to another episode of the HBA After Hours podcast, the local podcast produced by the Home Builders Association of Greater Kansas City. As always, I'm your host, Will Reuter, Executive Vice President here at the KCHBA, and with me co-hosting is...
Keith Sauro. I'm the publisher of Design KC and the Real Estate Book and New Home Guide. How are you, Will?
Keith, I'm fantastic. It's always good to be with you. Also,
you say that.
Yeah, no, I say it and I mean it.
Wow.
And now we've got video now, so you can see the sincerity in my face when I say it, right? But we've got a great episode. A good thing to bring us back together is Councilman Wes Rogers from Kansas City, Missouri, 2nd District in Council. Pleasure to be with you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Well, one of the best ways, I think, to kick off a new episode is to allow yourself to introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us what you would like them to know about you, why you came into the position that you are. Demonstrate that you're not certifiably insane by seeking public office in the year 2026.
Well, today he might not think that. Tomorrow he might think differently.
Could be.
Day by day.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, so Wes Rogers, currently on the Kansas City City Council. I represent part of the Northland, so the southern Northland. Prior to that, grew up in Platte City, college and law school at Mizzou. After that, I was a public defender for 1 year, followed by 5 years at the Clay County Prosecutor's Office, last 2 of which is the chief deputies to doing all the really gross ones, like the murders, the robberies, the really terrible ones. I left that to take over our family business. Done that for the last 12 years. We lease commercial dishwashers, mostly to restaurants, hotels, nursing homes, that sort of thing. And in 2018, I ran for the state legislature, so I served 2 terms in the state legislature in Jefferson City. I joke that my political ceiling was low, my opportunity cost was high, so I just couldn't justify being down there for very long. So I came back to Kansas City very comfortable, just hanging out with my kids. I've got 3 kids, 11, 9, and 5, and running our family business. And then within about 3 months, I decided to run for the city council. I'm on my first term now, so it's a 4-year term.
You couldn't get away.
Couldn't get away. So I'm in my 3rd year of 4 years now. I'm running for mayor next year, and that's how I got here.
Wow. I don't know if I could rattle off my bio that fast.
Well, yeah,
yes, I could.
Clearly, he's been practicing, but it's true. The political bug bites you, and true servants find ways to continue to serve.
Right.
So appreciate very
I'm sure
much.
They're very glad to have you back.
And appreciate that.
And all politics really at the end of the day is local. So, grew up in the area. This is where you're raising your family. Exactly the kind of person you want filling a spot like that. So, just appreciate you being here today, Councilman, too, because, housing is the topic of the day. It seems like a national, state, and local conversation that's happening. And I know you've been a big acolyte of Ezra Klein's book, Abundance, and talking about housing. Tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, your vantage point, where you see the housing discussion here in Kansas City.
So I'll just tell you, I've been making my rounds talking to people north of the river, south of the river, across the political spectrum. And the 3 things that I hear the most about Kansas City is 1, public safety, need to be safer. Number 2, economic development, need to make sure that we're creating jobs and that people can pay their bills. And then number 3 is providing basic services like you expect out of a city. The one obvious tie to all 3 of those things is housing. Mm-hmm. And so every time I heard anybody approach that from any of these angles, I thought the one thing we can impact all of these 3 things at the same time is by building more housing in the city of Kansas City.
Well, I think that as part of that national housing conversation, it has kind of coalesced around the concept that we are severely lacking supply. The Mid-America Regional Council has a whole host of different reporting and statistics that shows how many thousands, tens of thousands of units we are short. And
Isn't it true nationwide we're like 9 million units short? Some crazy number.
Yeah, depending on what media source you adhere to,
Right.
it's anywhere between 2 and 9 million. Regardless of what that national number is, we're feeling it here locally. And Kansas City, Missouri is, a city on the rise. Lots of good stuff happening, a national and international attention. We got the biggest pop star on the planet. That's a part-time resident, seasonal resident. That's another episode. We don't want spoiler alert for our next guest. No, that's obviously big.
We can try.
Yeah.
Let's try.
I know somebody that went to one of her concerts. So, but anyway,
let's have them on.
Yeah, right. But the fact is that we're not providing enough units of housing that are meeting the needs of a modern economy. So, from the city's standpoint, where are we lacking? What is the market missing? Is there, hope on the horizon on the elected or the political side that steps are being made to start working against this backlog?
Yeah, so I think the short answer is yes, there are steps being made, and we've got shortages across the economic spectrum, right? So if you're looking for a beautiful single family home, we need more of those. If you're looking for somebody who's just scraped by, just looking for a safe place to live, we need more of those, and everything in between. So the more the better for sure. But we're seeing we addressed the energy code, that's helped some. We've changed the permitting process a little bit, that has helped some. We can see. So the short answer is yeah, we're trying, and we got a long way to
Are
go.
you feeling that some of those changes are helping the confidence of builders and investors that want to make some more steps now? Or
The initial response is yes, I think so, but
Okay.
the data doesn't lie, so we need to make sure that the permits are coming in, and hopefully they will be, because some of these changes are pretty new.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the nice thing about municipal government is if you're not working, or what you're doing is not working, it's not that hard to change it. So we made some changes recently. We think it will result in more homes being built. But if we're wrong, we'll change something
Change it
else
again.
and figure out what it's going to take. Yeah.
Find the formula.
Yeah, and this is an exercise in controlling what can be controlled. As a city council member, you can't dictate what the interest rate is, and you can't form an international trade agreement with a foreign government to
Right.
introduce new supplies into the market. So really, when we talk about those 5 L's about housing supply: land, labor, lumber, lending, and laws. City governments only have exposure to a couple of those. So the law side is a big thing. But, on the single family side, yes, the energy code saw an amendment, pretty controversial, obviously, but anything that seems to be the most politically attractive thing to political lightning that exists. It's a lightning rod, so to speak. But the change was made, and we're seeing some improvements on that side. It wasn't automatic, it wasn't immediate, but nothing in housing is. But over on some other parts of the housing spectrum, Kansas City recently addressed parking minimums and some other items like that. Tell us a little bit about some of those other innovative things you guys are considering.
So you want to talk about another lightning rod? The parking minimums are part of that too, and I supported the change. I'm glad that we did it, because at the end of the day, you got to figure out what are you actually trying to accomplish. And to me, what we're trying to accomplish is building more housing, creating more housing. And so what creates new housing? Addressing the energy code, that's a way to create more housing. Addressing parking minimums, that's a way to create more housing. So there are a handful of things we can do, and let's do them. One thing that a big city like Kansas City loses sight of sometimes is, we want to do things, but only if we do them in a very certain prescribed way. And then it gets so hard to do it that we're so
get out of your
focused on
own
the
way.
process, we do get in our own way, and then the result is nothing is getting built. So I'm not saying all that other stuff's not important, it is, but at the end of the day, the one metric is making sure we're creating more housing, which in turn makes it more affordable too.
What do you mean by parking minimums for people that are listening that
Yeah.
don't know what that means?
Yeah, so for the original city core, basically we eliminated parking minimums. So like right now, we've got parking minimums at bars. We have a park minimum at a bar on the streetcar line, right? That is not the greatest use of space. And if we can do some infill development and instead make it so that somebody wanting to build multifamily or single family can do so without, having to spend an incredible amount on parking, that's going to save them money. It's going to make it pencil out. And guess what? We get more residents in Kansas City because of it.
Yeah. Are you finding that some of the new businesses and the amazing things that are happening economically downtown Kansas City starting to draw more people and more interest into building? I'm
Yes,
seeing that.
and we're going to see a lot more of that. And the streetcar line, we've already seen this with the streetcar line where it is now, but there's been so much infill along the streetcar line as it is, and there's all sorts of plans coming to do more development along the streetcar line. And I think what we'll see is, I think the next 10 years is going to be a pretty fun time to be in Kansas City in part because of that.
How are we going to get through World Cup. Let's see, that's going to be tight,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna see how many people we can squeeze into Kansas City.
I hope so.
Everywhere.
I hope
It's
so.
gonna be
That means
great.
there's a lot of people from outside of
gonna be
Kansas City
great.
coming in and spending outside dollars instead
Yes.
of just
Mhm.
recycling.
Exciting
what we got
time.
locally.
Sure. And then hopefully they'll realize how great of a city we have and they decide to come back and tell their friends to come visit
Bring
too.
their company with them.
Yeah, well,
right?
exactly. Yeah, I know there's a lot of plans in place too to make sure that these deep pockets, people looking for investment opportunities, realize Kansas City's got a lot to offer. So hopefully we'll open some eyes when they come watch soccer.
Yeah, and let's face it, you're going to have deep pockets based on what tickets are going for.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they've even increased the hours for bars and like it's just going to be
Yep.
Yeah.
great for
And we'll have
6
to
8
adjust
weeks.
too,
Lot
because you
going
got
on.
people coming from South America and Europe who have a little different social hours than we have, right?
Yeah.
So you got to meet them where they are and make sure that we
Well, and
accommodate.
their
what
games
they're
are
used
on
to.
different times, right?
Yeah.
So they want to watch the games,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. Really
Yeah,
interesting.
and those types of soccer fans have the fact that they have social hours means they have more social hours than me.
Right, yeah, no, same.
Right.
I can't imagine being awake at that time, let alone partying, but I'm glad that they're out spending their money. Talk to us a little bit, Councilman, about some of the cool things you see happening in Kansas City, maybe that don't have a natural housing nexus. I know you talked at the outset about how those three core things do have a housing nexus. I can make an argument that everything has a housing
I was
nexus.
just getting ready to say that.
But if you've got some things that might not be on the radar for the members of our industry, it all impacts where that capital is going to go to. So kind of some of the things that you're excited about happening in Kansas City.
So it's something you'll hear me say a lot is I call Kansas City the cultural capital of the heartland. So from Chicago to Denver, Minneapolis to Dallas, if something's happening, we want it happening here in Kansas City. And so my wife's a doctor at Children's Mercy, and I like to, when they're trying to recruit doctors from bigger cities, they're sometimes a little skeptical about coming to Kansas City. So I'll take them to the top of City Hall and point out all these great things we've got going on. So you can see the riverfront. You can see some of the really good development in the West Bottom that's happening right now in the West Bottoms.
So fun down there.
Oh, it's so fun. It's going to keep getting better,
Right.
too. And then maybe I was lying a little bit for a while when I would point out downtown baseball and say, hey, we're going to have downtown baseball, too. So now that's a reality.
No, I was totally pointing over there.
Right, yeah. Well, I knew we would
Speaking
get
of
it
parking
done. Now we
minimums,
got
no,
that
just
done. And so when you're trying to attract people to Kansas City, whether it's a doctor or anybody else, they want to know it's a place where things are happening. So when we're creating these really cool experiences for people, it attracts people. And then when people come to our city, they got to find a place to live. And, anywhere in the region, I'm glad that they're coming to our region to live. But that's step number one. Me personally, I got a dog in the fight. Once they're in the region, I specifically want them to live in Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah.
Imagine
I'll admit
that.
But yeah.
So, I think from our perspective, when we go to national meetings, when we're out at the International Builder Show or at some of our other meetings as an industry where we gather around the country, a frequent topic of discussion is, hey, what's going on in Kansas City? They hear about it. Winning several Super Bowls within a relatively short period of time is a great conversation starter. But they hear about other things going on too, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
So we're always evangelists for this region because this is where we live. We want to see it prosper. Only new investment is going to keep it moving in that right direction. And then, some of the challenges that we hear are relatively similar to challenges you hear from other major metropolitan areas as well. So Kansas City isn't unique in a lot of ways for some of those challenges. Some of the variability and some of the decision making and the outcomes certainly are, but we talking about the things that are going good in Kansas City. What are some of the things that you would want to see worked on or a greater point of emphasis made towards?
So the number one thing that comes up always is public safety, and that impacts just like housing, it impacts everything. But I will tell you, and here's the good news: violent crime is going down across the country. We've got to be honest with ourselves, though, and it's not going down as fast in Kansas City as it is in some other big municipalities. However, last year we had our lowest homicide rate in 7 years, and at this time last year we had 50 homicides. This year we've got 40, so we are going the right direction. We need to continue with that. And we didn't, for years we were the biggest city in the country without a municipal jail. And we're getting ready to open a municipal jail. It's basically built now, and once we get it staffed, it'll be up and running. So that will help. Now it's municipal offenses, right? So it's not the worst of the worst, but that's all connected, and that'll help a lot. And the state's building a mental health facility. in downtown Kansas City. We've got some dedicated beds for Kansas City. That'll help a lot. We're creating more low barrier shelters for houseless people. That will help a lot. So all of those things together, I think you'll continue to see us get safer. And the biggest thing that doesn't get talked about nearly enough is our police. We're supposed to have 1,400 police officers for a full KCPD. We're at about 1,250 right now, but that number's it's increased month after month after
Great.
month because, and I'll give credit to Nathan Willett for this. He pushed really hard for a pay raise a couple years ago, and so now we're up close to where we need to be. So our academy classes are getting bigger. We're getting more police on the street, and you're seeing results of that too. So that's been probably, there's several reasons. I would say that's probably been the biggest reason that we're getting safer. So
That's
I'm optimistic.
amazing.
Yeah.
Are you finding that sometimes, people in public are looking for a type of housing that you can't provide or can't be provided? Is there anything been asked for that doesn't exist? Either we can't or don't provide?
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today, and I would say no, although I would hope that you all, as those people creating the house, would let us know if so,
Right.
and we would go to bat. So, I come from a small business where if somebody wants something, actually a quick side story, we do commercial dishwashers, and there's a really long lead time for commercial dishwashers right now. It's just all of the external factors that home builders are dealing with, we've got to deal with those too.
Sure.
And so one of our salesmen told somebody, basically, we're really sorry it's going to take you so long to get a dishwasher. No, we don't say it that way. We've got great relationships with our manufacturers. So here's how you say it is, we can get you a dishwasher faster than anybody else in the industry can right now. It's 12 weeks, right? So it is longer than usual, but we're still the fastest.
Right.
And so, we need that mentality at City Hall too. If we need to find a certain kind of housing, let's go figure out how to find it. And if we got to go beg some builder to come do it, that's what we'll do. But we need to treat it like that and be aggressive about it because people want us to come up with those solutions.
Yeah. Well, I know that there is a tremendous amount of innovation that is pent up within the industry. Not building everything that we're capable of building or everything we would want to build. The market is going to adapt to that changing consumer behavior. It's whether or not that product that the public cannot articulate what it is looking for is allowed to come into fruition. So it's kind of if you build it, they will come mentality as far as making policy. If you make the policy that is able to be navigated within the policy, okay, it's broad, it's fair, it's enforceable, it's easy to comply with, and we can operate in there where decisions can get made. Builders are not going to build things that people don't want to buy. But the thing is we're not able to build everything that people want to buy. So how do we harmonize those things? I know that there's a big discussion going on nationally, and now it's picked up steam here locally with zoning and changing UDOs to allow for more adaptability. Is that something that Kansas City's considering?
Well, it's been discussed. Here's the problem with that, and it's a compliment as much as anything else. But people like their neighborhoods, right?
Right.
And so if we make too many major changes, you will get major pushback from people
already
who don't want to see
happening. Yep.
a ton of change to their neighborhood. My opinion is, and this may get me in trouble politically at some point, we need to build more housing. We need to be more creative about what that looks like. We need to be more accepting that maybe your neighbor's house or duplex or triplex doesn't look exactly like you would prefer it to look. But at the end of the day, you want the snow to get plowed, you want your trash to get picked up, and it's a lot more affordable for the city to do that well when there are more neighbors in your neighborhood. So we've got to be willing to make ourselves a little bit uncomfortable, make sure we're building the housing that there's demand for.
Yeah, and the city isn't the only entity in there that's going to be uncomfortable in those discussions. That's certainly true of the industry as well, because just like an elected official doesn't become an elected official by alienating their constituency.
Right.
A builder or developer or an investor that is trying to add housing isn't going to be well received if they come in and say it's my way or the highway to a group of neighbors and saying I'm allowed to put this here, break out the torches and the pitchforks and come after it. That's not something they're interested in doing either. So I think we've got a universal exposure here to ensuring that the city is providing clear and consistent rules that the community is willing to accept so that builders can satisfy that's acceptable to the community. Because when we go in and submit an application or something to build something, it's not necessarily just to get the city's approval. We've got to have the neighbor's approval, not only the consumer that's going to purchase it, but the people that are going to live around it.
Right.
So it's a much broader pool of people swimming in it than I think a lot of people give it credit
Yeah,
for.
and if you want to go fundamentally change a neighborhood, there are neighbors that live there that invested their lives into that neighborhood, raise their kids there. So I don't want to minimize that part either. It's really important that the neighbors know what's happening and feel good about it. And I have just found, in general, it's good to talk about things too, right? So if you're trying to hold something secret and then hope you can get it done at the last minute, that's not going to end well. If you go to a neighborhood and say, hey, we really like your neighborhood, we want to invest here, here's what we're thinking, more often than not, you can work through that in a way that the neighbors feel excited about what the future looks like.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've recognized in being engaged in housing politics to this degree is that those traditional partisan lines tend to break down in this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got the polling data that shows the not in my backyard crowd is not a Republican or a Democrat thing. The economics and the politics of housing are nonpartisan. So you've got maybe the more traditional left-wing NIMBYs that would say, no, we can't do this type of project here because of displacement or gentrification. And the effect is that more supply is not added, which makes the people that would have built that go and buy something that already exists and raise rents and do all those things. And then you have maybe, statistically, the more right-wing NIMBYs that are worried about their property values. And really, economically speaking, from a data and stats standpoint, misplaced or misguided concern about their property values. And so the effect is no, you can't build this, no, you can't build this, and that's constituting a majority, which is where we've gotten into this logjam. So how do we address that middle group of people who are just like, guys, Republican, Democrat, green, purple, blue, don't care. Let's just get something in here that my family or my children or their children can at least live within, throwing distance from us.
And that's the nice thing about local government is it's nonpartisan. You're just solving problems. And you do get, actually, David Holt, the mayor of Oklahoma City, different political party than I am. He's just a wonderful guy. I've never met him, but he seems like a wonderful guy. Very good mayor, doing a great job down there. And he basically said, I learned pretty early on, he said this the other day in the interview, I'm not that worried about what people on the far left are doing. I'm not that worried about what people on the far right are doing because most people are somewhere in the middle and they want to solve problems, and that's what I focus on. We can do that same thing in Kansas City, and if we're willing to just know that we're doing the right thing, that doesn't mean don't listen to people. I'm not saying that, but the vast majority of people understand that the city's going to evolve, and the way it evolves best is when people are moving into our city, investing in our city, making our neighborhoods more vibrant.
Isn't there always going to be glasses half empty or glasses half full? I mean, you can line up 50 people in a room, and if you're lucky, half will agree one way and half will agree the other, but it doesn't always work that way. But I mean, how do you overcome something like that? You joke about the pitchforks and the NIMBYs and we know it's true, right? But how do you combat that when you've got an opportunity where maybe you're bringing in, multi-use communities, but somebody's like, I don't want the apartments here. I just want single family. The traffic is going to be ridiculous. I don't want this. Even though at the same time they're saying, I want more restaurants. I want more things to do. And you can't have one with the other.
And I want lower property taxes.
Yeah, and lower property taxes, right?
Well, I'll pick. So I'm a Northlander, and I'll pick on my Northland friends a little bit here. So, we're expanding jobs north of the river like crazy right now. Ribbon cuttings constantly, pretty good paying jobs, and I'm proud of that, and most of my neighbors love that. But we need housing for everybody too, right? So, if you've got some decent job making 20-something bucks an hour at the airport, there's not a lot of places you can afford close to the airport. So my solution to that is we need to build housing that you can afford. And so a lot of times the same groups that are excited about the jobs have real concerns about the housing that needs to go with that. And we just need to be honest about that. And most people aren't absolutist on it. They just want to have the conversation and be assured that it's, traffic, like you said, will still be okay, and that the things that we're promising will come along, which is, hopefully we don't have to raise your taxes. Hopefully you're going to have more restaurants, which, by the way, also need workers, and they need a place they can afford to live too. And so you just have to have that
Vicious
conversation.
circle.
And most people are pretty reasonable when you're willing to engage with them and be honest with them. And, you can't just go tell them everything they want to hear either, but you just got to sell them on the future looking better than the present.
Than the present. Yeah.
Yeah, in my experience, that's one of the most challenging aspects of trying to move housing forward is that everybody lives somewhere, so they've all got their own perspective, and it's really hard to harmonize all of those very different perspectives, especially when we're talking about, the median new home sales price in Kansas City approaching $500,000. And therefore, anything less than that all of a sudden becomes quote unquote affordable housing. I've never met a poor person in my life that can afford a $400,000 house or a $300,000 house. I mean, so if we're talking about not even being able to provide that, we've
what's
completely
the
lost the
solution?
plot.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. My mom raised my brother and I by herself, a single mom, and she, she owned a small house, and that was fine. It worked for us. But, if you're talking about somebody that's, a working person trying to create some wealth, we need to make sure there's houses somebody, and that's in my mom's situation, can actually afford, and that $500,000 isn't even close to that.
No.
Right.
No, and if we fall into that trap of just speaking about housing in affordability terms, I mean, you have to have the affordable aspect of the conversation, but it really does.
But that's a word that means so many things, different things to
It means
different people,
whatever
right?
you want it to mean
Yeah.
in that moment, and it's been weaponized really
Yeah, it has.
in this conversation. So, I think what it comes back to is availability. Are there units of housing available within your current rung of the socioeconomic ladder? Not that you're going to be on that rung forever. Maybe you rise, maybe you fall, but there is something that is going to be available to you regardless of what circumstances you find yourself in.
100%. If we're being a responsible society, somebody who is scraping by, we don't want them to scrape by forever. We want them to build actual wealth. And the best way we can do that is by making sure they have a house they can afford.
That's right. And, that can be addressed. It can't be solved. It can be addressed at the local level. But that, again, goes back to, controlling the things that you can control at the local level.
Yeah.
Because our national tax code has essentially made home ownership one of, if not the only real way to build long-term wealth that exists in this country. And until that changes, which is hard to imagine that ever changing, these are the rules of the game, and we've got to play it to the best of our ability at the local
100%.
level.
Still goes back to the same thing. You can't make more land, right? You own your little piece and slice of the pie, and hopefully, some of these things that the government's doing, and both local, nationally, will help people get their little slice of their pie.
Yeah. If you were able, you had the powers of persuasion. Not to say you're not a persuasive guy, but no, we're only so persuasive, even within our own households. Only so persuasive on some of these
That
things.
was Will's disclaimer.
Right, yeah, right. Honey, I love you. But if you were able to say, and you could convince someone that this is what we ought to do, what's a housing thing that we could do today that, maybe doesn't have the buy-in right now, but you could see people getting there?
So, there's a bunch, but, we did housing or the parking requirements, which is great. Well, theoretically, we've done accessory dwelling units, the grandma flats already in Kansas City, but they're not getting built. So we've got to figure out why those aren't getting built. And, multi-family by right is dead on arrival politically in Kansas City, and that's fine. But there are areas of the city, so that's probably my most direct answer on that is there are areas of the city where we can look at that and do more multifamily by right. Not everywhere. I'll get right out of the Northland if I say that, but certainly in parts of the city, and that would reduce housing costs almost immediately.
I know Council Member Melissa Patterson Hasley has made it a point of emphasis to remediate some of those lots that have just, because of our demolition practices from decades and decades ago, where you see all these empty lots, but they are not truly empty. They've got a lot of work to do on them. That to me is one of the best things that we can do, because it's infrastructure adjacent, if not infrastructure accessible. And that's what we need to do is to focus on some of these older, more mature parts of the city to get them back up to a more modern state of housing.
Well, and Councilwoman Patterson Hasley is a good friend of mine, and I think she's right on the money on that, and she's done some really good work, and she's found some federal grants and looking for more all the time. In addition to that, and especially if you go up to Likens or Indian Mound or some of these other beautiful neighborhoods that are, historic neighborhoods in our city, there are a lot of houses there that haven't been well maintained at all. Some of them have been, partially burned. You can go through a list of issues in those neighborhoods. Beautiful neighborhoods. We've got people moving back into them. It's such an exciting part of our city right now. And if we can invest in some of those properties, you're already seeing a renaissance there, but there's another renaissance waiting if we figure out how to turn some of these older, like I said, these burned out houses basically into livable units again. It's exciting to think about what that could be.
Yeah. And, the city has acknowledged that we've got to have more population in those places. Look at really the lack of population growth over the last several decades. It's demonstrable that Kansas City, Missouri, as the kind of the cornerstone or the flagship within the metro, is providing economic opportunity, but not necessarily home ownership opportunity to go along with it, and to attract and retain the people within the borders of the city is of one of the highest priorities that we should have, right?
That's priority 1A all day long. And if you're talking about, we don't control the public schools. They go through KCPS and their board, but we want to be good partners for KCPS. The best thing we can do is get more kids moving back into these neighborhoods. And that's how you help KCPS. You want a safer community. How do you help KCPD? You get more families in there. You get, more street lights on, more people outside, more activity. All of that, like we said earlier, comes back to housing. And through housing, you can be a good partner to KCPS.
Population can create support.
Yeah, and now they're paying taxes, so now you're a good partner for the library too, because they've got more resources, and so the population creates support for all sorts of important government services.
That's great.
Yeah, and we've had a discussion here, as most housing discussions go, on the financial aspects of it. Obviously, there are huge financial benefits and gains to be made through home ownership, but there's also that cultural aspect, and the
sense of family.
Yes, the ownership of housing creates an equity stake within that community.
Oh, for sure.
And this is never meant to be a disparagement of renters, because we've all been renters in our lives. And maybe, again, that's just how housing cycles work.
When my wife kicks me out, I might need it.
There's always that
getting
possibility.
close.
It's a non-zero chance every day we wake up. That's just the way this stuff goes. It's what we signed up for. But owners behave differently within their relationship with their community.
100%.
And so I know that, when my wife and we bought our house, we dove right in. We got to make this the place for our kids to be raised. And so we're going to volunteer. We're going to pick up trash. We're going to do those things. And so, creating home ownership opportunities is incredibly important, because Kansas City is essentially 50-50 between renters and owners right now. So creating more home ownership opportunities creates a more predictable tax base.
Well, and like you said, that's the best way to create wealth that we've come up with in this country too. So you're giving people a chance to create wealth, which is always a great thing.
Yeah, and so not only those first-time home buyers, which typically take up all of the oxygen in a housing conversation, but we're talking about first-generation home buyers in a lot of these circumstances, and that should be a major motivating factor as well.
Well, and again, that's good for the library, that's good for the public schools, it's good for the police department. There's a watershed effect there when that happens.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing what you're doing, and to leave and come back, that's even more amazing, right? Because at one point you were probably like, oh, thank goodness, I can get back to my business, right? And then what happened? What brought you back?
So Kansas City is an exciting place right now. And, you go north where I'm from, and if you want to build some single family, come north and we will show you all sorts of great opportunities out there. And we want you to come build all the single family as far as the eye can see. And then you come downtown, we've got all these great things happening downtown. Like I said, you go out east and you see some things we can do out east. If the next 10 years in Kansas will be one of the most exciting decades in our
I
city's
believe that.
history. So I want to be a part of it. It's a fun time to be here.
That's great. Well, lucky to have you. And I was reading your bio, and I have a really interesting question for you.
Okay.
And so you were on the flagship council for the University of Missouri-Columbia. What's that, first of all?
It's just an alumni group that tries to guide the university.
Okay. So you decided to try to enter a canoe race from Kansas City to St. Louis,
The longest nonstop water race in the world from Kansas City to St. Louis, 340 miles.
and you placed.
Third to last. But we finished. And,
Dude, I would never finish that.
and the important part, there's only 2 out of 3 boats finished. And we didn't realize what we were doing. It was me and my buddy. We just getting a.
How could you do that?
canoe
Must have
and
been
start paddling.
crazy.
Yeah, we had a handle of whiskey that we'll drink this. We'll have fun. It never even touched it. It was
You were like just
survival
you were
mode all
holding.
the way in. Yeah,
It must have been crazy.
Yeah, I think we had 90 hours to finish. We finished in the 88th hour or something because they cut the boats off if you don't make it. So again, for us, we finished.
That's amazing.
1 out of 3 boats did not finish. We did, and it's a nice bucket list thing to have done.
I think it's cool that you put that in your bio, and I read that. And I was like, "That's pretty cool." And it must have been rapids at some points, and other
It's
points
the
nothing.
Missouri River, so it's fat. I mean, it's
Yeah,
intimidating a little bit, but no rapids. Just
that would have been rapids to
point
me.
to St. Louis and go.
Gave you a
That's
much
great.
deeper appreciation for the pioneers.
Oh my god!
to
No
navigate
kidding,
the water.
right?
We were going the same way as water. The pioneers were going the opposite.
Right.
I don't know how they did
Upstream.
that. Yeah.
Yep. Well, Mr. Councilman, if you had a message or something for, our industry, you would want the listeners here to know, the HBA to know, anyone that listens to the podcast to know about yourself, about the city, what would that be?
So there are a lot of great municipalities in our region where you could choose to build homes. We want you in Kansas City. We've got the most space. We've got the most opportunity. We want you here. And if there's things we can do to make it more appealing to come to Kansas City, let us know.
Well, appreciate hearing that, because capital always goes where it's wanted,
Yeah.
and it stays where it's welcome. So appreciate knowing of those opportunities. If you've got a question, you the listening audience, that you would want answered on a future episode, please go to kchba.org/podcast and drop us a note. We'd be happy to figure out if it's a question we're capable of answering, or that, frankly, if we want to answer it, we'll answer it. We do have full editorial control
That's
over
right.
over the podcast.
And by the way, we need to do a huge thank you to Mike Bryant, Heating and Cooling, for sponsoring today's show.
Yep, Aaron Fonseca and the team over there doing great work supporting the HBA every day. So appreciate them immensely. And also, always appreciative of our guests who subject themselves to this very hard-hitting line of questioning. I recognize, hopefully, didn't sweat through your jacket. I know you got some other stuff to go to, because you wouldn't get dressed up like that to come to the HBA. Not to talk to a bunch of builders.
Well, I try to start with the same thing, so I don't have to. So what I used to do is I used to drive a forklift in the morning at our warehouse, and I'd run down to City Council in the afternoon, and I'd try to switch something out. That's just one outfit for the whole day, and that's what you get. So
There
you
you go.
got fancy today.
Looking good.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilman Rogers, thank you again for joining us and being part of the conversation.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Keith, thank you.
Thank you
And
so
thanks to
much.
all of you for listening, and thanks again to Mike Bryant Heating and Cooling, today's sponsor. This has been a production of the Kansas City Home Builders Association, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.